Welcome. My name is Loic Lemenner, founder of Opus Wealth Management. Thank you for clicking on this video where we'll walk through a few aspects of our business that combined, we think make Opus a very special place. As any business owner talking about their baby tends to do, this video got a little long. So you can click on the gear icon at the bottom right of the screen to listen at a higher speed. Or you can click on the YouTube logo. Once on the YouTube page, you'll be able to see timestamps in the description box below, which has direct links to any section that might interest you. There are really two sides to our business, financial planning and investments. So we'll take them one at a time, starting with investments. Differentiator number one, we just have a different goal. When I ask families that have just hired us what matters more to them, keeping up with an arbitrary index like the S&P 500, or managing their money in a way that allows them to live the lifestyle they want, 100% have chosen the latter. Ben Graham, Warren Buffett's mentor, said, "The best way to measure your investing success is not by whether you're beating the market, but whether you put in place a financial plan and a behavioral discipline that are likely to get you where you want to go." Living your lifestyle the way you want without meaningful impairment is what we call at Opus, getting you all the way home. And that's the goal of everything we do in investments. We hope it's as obvious to you as it is us that this is quite different from a firm that seeks to outperform some index over a short period of time. We focus on winning the marathon and couldn't care less about winning each mile. In fact, trying to win each mile of a marathon is a perfect recipe to cause you to not even finish the race. In the words of Charlie Munger, if it makes sense in the long term, we just don't give a damn what it looks like in the short term. How would you feel if you were flying in a storm across the Atlantic only to find out that your plane was a drone and your pilots were safe and sound thousands of miles away? That would be unacceptable, right? Why should your investments be any different? If an investment manager truly believes in the investments they have chosen for you, shouldn't it be good enough for their family? At Opus, we make that commitment. Apart from a small play account, we use the same investments for our families that we recommend for you. Even the Opus 401k is filled with investments we recommend for our clients, not generic target date funds. We're all in. Furthermore, we demand our fund managers to have a personal investment in the funds they manage for us. It's one of the first things we look for when evaluating a fund. We want our fund managers on that plane with us. The first rule of fishing is fish where the fish are, right? We were inspired by the Berkshire Hathaway model that allows them to fish in both public and private markets. One thing to realize is how rare a great investment is. A high conviction idea is really hard to find. So why severely limit yourself out of the gate? Firms that focus solely on public markets may be missing out on a huge swath of opportunities out there. Forbes reports that almost 99% of firms in the US are private, and many of them raise money from investors. Not many of our competitors do the work to access private markets like we do. But if they do, many use huge private equity funds that are often deploying billions, if not tens of billions of dollars at a time. Call us skeptical that these mega-sized funds can find enough truly unique opportunities to deploy billions of dollars intelligently. As Buffett says, size is the anchor of performance. Part of our philosophy is to stay small, nimble, and under the radar, where we are set up to take advantage of any sized opportunity, even if it comes in the form of a small company. You want to work with a firm that right out of the gate limits you to public companies, a mere 1% of the ocean out there? I wouldn't think so. Another advantage of our structure is that we're truly independent. I'm always baffled by firms who want to be a family's primary wealth manager, but then only allow their advisors to use that company's investment products. As if any single firm out there could be the best at every type of investing. It's ludicrous, and it's only meant to line that firm's pockets. I like to use a dream team analogy. Imagine having to pick players from any single NBA team. Sure, there are usually going to be an all-star or two, but compare that to literally being able to pick any all-star you want from any team, and you end up with something like this. That's quite a difference, right? Now, there are no guarantees in life, but at least having the structural ability to build your own dream team is a really good start. Now let's talk about investment philosophy because it's extremely important. Two of the most common investment strategies out there are polar opposites of each other, and both are at extremes on the spectrum. We think both of them leave a lot to be desired. On one hand, you have what I'll call the predictors. People who claim to have a crystal ball and can know where the markets are going over the short term. Anybody who answers the question, what do you think the markets will do this year, is in that camp. So that covers pretty much most of the people on TV. If somebody was any good at predicting the next 12 months, they would quickly open up a hedge fund and earn billions of dollars. So almost by definition, us mere mortals aren't in that camp. A quick thought experiment to debunk this type of investing is simply to think about what would you have to have known 12 months ago to predict the last year accurately. Like I said, in my humble opinion, mere mortals can't do it. And Buffett would tell you that a short-term prediction tells you more about the predictor than anything about the markets. On the polar opposite end of the spectrum is what I'll call the static crowd. Their philosophy is to take the extreme view that we can't know anything about the markets, so always stay in the same portfolio. My issue with this philosophy is that they're saying that whether something like the S&P 500 is trading, say, at 2 times earnings or 200 times earnings, it deserves the same weight in your portfolio. Name me one thing in life you would buy equal amounts of, whether it was trading for dirt cheap or stratospherically expensive. It just makes no sense to me. What we think is a happy medium is to be value investors, to use valuations, how expensive or cheap something is, to form a reasonable, long-term, 10-year type expectation. And then compare that to the relative attractiveness of other assets. We use this longer-term math to be gradually contrarian, so if something gets more expensive, more good news is baked into the price, and it's likelier to disappoint, we're gradually reducing our exposure. This takes a lot of patience and discipline, but it's based on math and reasonable expectations, not on hocus pocus nor giving up. If that sounds reasonable to you, you might want to watch our Iron Law evaluation video, which goes into the math of how this works. I'll put a link in the description below. Let me touch on academic credentials for a minute. Now, I'm the last person to argue that academic credentials are the end-all be-all, but you do have to wonder how committed are advisors to the investment profession who claim to have a passion for investing and don't bother to get their CFA, which is generally considered the gold standard of investment credentials. It's roughly 18 textbooks that you have to know well. Of course, there are many reasons why people don't get their CFA, but in general, wouldn't you just be a little bit more nervous hiring a doctor that didn't go to medical school or an attorney that didn't go to law school? Throughout my career, I've been frightened at advisors who can tell a great story but couldn't explain to you how some pretty basic things work in the financial markets. It's just a really good base of technical investment knowledge, and in a highly competitive world, I think that matters. I spent years of my life studying because I think it matters. Another note of importance is we are readers. If you study the greats, it's quite obvious they got there by reading everything under the sun. In fact, Charlie Munger says, "In my whole life, I've known no wise people over a broad subject matter area who didn't read all the time. None. Zero." I can scroll through my Kindle library, which is where I read most of my books. I really do try to read extensively to reduce my blind spots and to better serve my clients. Despite all this, we aim to keep our fees below the industry's average shown here. We're able to do this because we're very efficient with our employees, our technology, and frankly, our average portfolio size is multiples of the industry average. I should caveat this by saying that private investments often have above average fees, but that is something that you choose to opt into depending on the opportunity. Our core portfolio and advisor fees are lower than the industry average. Allow me to make one last comment on investing. There's only 3 things you can anchor on when picking an investment path: history, math, and reason. Using those 3 tools is what brought me eventually to value investing. It appeals to me because, as Buffett says, you don't have to be smarter than the rest, you just have to be more disciplined than the rest. There are always genius people coming up with the next big thing. Most fail, and some succeed brilliantly. But you and your family, all of us, we only get one shot. And it was important to me to find a way to play this game to give us the highest odds of avoiding disaster to get you all the way home. Now let's switch over to the planning side of the house. I'd like to start by saying that I think a reasonably clean compliance record matters. There are a lot of bad actors in this industry. It baffles me how some firms in the industry can pay billions of dollars in penalties over and over. Some couldn't even manage their own balance sheets well enough to not need rescuing during the financial crisis, and yet they still have millions of investment clients. You can go to this BrokerCheck website and see if the advisor you're considering working with has any dings on their record. Does every advisor need a perfectly clean compliance record? No. If there are a few complaints, some might have been unreasonable, there might have been an innocent mistake or two, but if somebody has a lot of complaints, I would stay away. I'm proud to say that after 23 years in this business, I've been able to keep a perfectly clean record. You might take it for granted that most wealth management firms offer comprehensive plans. After all, the ads on TV certainly imply that. Well, what you're seeing to your right is the result of a study by the Spectrum Group comparing what clients were expecting in dark blue versus what they were actually getting in light blue. Wow, what a difference. Our industry has a lot of work to do. In a similar study, J.D. Power found that only 11% of families were receiving comprehensive advice. At Opus, you can feel assured that we have built the knowledge, systems, and processes, some of which we're about to go through in this video, to deliver truly comprehensive planning. One of the ways we implement what at the end of the day is a broad and intertwined process is by the building of checklists. Charlie Munger is a big proponent of checklists, and the idea was popularized by the book, The Checklist Manifesto. At Opus, we live by the saying, the biggest lie we tell ourselves is that we'll remember. That's why our back office is full of checklists. While a back office full of processes and checklists is probably not very rare, having taken the time to codify everything we know how to do for you from a planning perspective is. One of the biggest challenges with financial advice is there are hundreds of core strategies a knowledgeable advisor needs to know to bring to their clients at just the right time. Outside of an occasional genius, which I certainly am not, nobody can have that kind of information in their brains ready to spring up at a moment's notice. That's why we've taken the time, hundreds of hours, to build a master checklist and codify everything we've come across that can help a client. As you can see, it's quite extensive. Our commitment to you is before review meetings, we go through the list one by one over every category that applies to your current situation to uncover as much value as we can. This has been the biggest needle mover to enhance our ability to help our client families. This simple but hard to build tool is a core resource that allows us to be truly comprehensive and proactive planners. For those of you who don't know what a family office is, it's where a centimillionaire or billionaire hires several professionals to work for just that one family. Over the years, a multifamily office concept emerged where a family that creates a family office then shares those resources with other families. In the wealth management industry, it's the epitome of coordinated planning. One reason I affiliate my practice with BellPoint is because BellPoint has a true blue family office. And while it's overkill for the majority of our clients, we have the peace of mind that if one of our clients needs family office services, we have the bat phone. We can scale up our services in a seamless way. I would absolutely argue this is rare in the industry. I know because when I was looking to switch firms, it took me literally years to find it. The next item I'd like to discuss is tax planning, which is very different from tax preparation. Tax prep is what everybody does. It's where you dutifully collect your things for your CPA after year end so they can fill out all the forms and submit them to the IRS and keep you out of jail. Tax planning is very different. It's forward-looking. It's meeting before the end of the year to see what strategies you can employ now to not only lower your taxes in the current year, but more importantly, over your lifetime. Counterintuitively, some strategies increase your taxes this year, but meaningfully reduce your taxes over the long term. In my experience, very few families sit down with any of their advisors to discuss long-term, forward-looking tax planning. Once again, we use our trusty checklist to make sure that we're thinking of all the tax strategies we know when we meet with you. Of all the items on our checklist, tax planning takes up the most space. We've identified over 350 strategies that we need to remember for you. The reaction I get a lot when talking about tax planning is, why doesn't my CPA do this? I would say because good, competent CPAs already have their calendar filled with tax prep and compliance issues. And it's a hard, overwhelming, and often thankless job. Our job as the advisor that knows the most about your life and your life's changes is to scan the tax landscape and propose ideas that are relevant to your situation when they are relevant. Narrow down the hundreds of possible strategies to a few that your CPA can opine on. That's teamwork and harmony. If the people I talk to and teach are any indication, virtually nobody does this, and yet taxes are often the biggest expense of one's life. All right, let's bring this all together now. If you do the math on this and you input very generous numbers for the traits where I have question marks, you should end up with only a handful of advisors in the country that have all these traits. Now, what I don't know is if you care about any of this. Maybe some of my formal education isn't important to you. Or maybe you think that value investing is only good for a couple old guys in Omaha. In which case, that's great. We know up front that we shouldn't work together. But if these traits are important to you, as they are me, then Opus is truly different, and you may want to reach out to us. Please visit our website to sign up for our educational content or just to ask a question. We really appreciate your time.